All right, and we are live. Lord Cognito here, Iron Lord Podcast, lordsofgaming.net. And who is this fine gentleman that we have in the realm of PAX East today?
I used to be, I was Larry Hryb, Xbox's Major Nelson, but I am just Larry Hryb now. I'm no longer with Xbox.
You're the artist formerly known as.
Well, you see, that's what I call myself on Twitter, the gamer formerly known as.
Awesome. Well, one thing we want to support you. Obviously, you have over 20 years at Xbox, tremendous history. But now this new endeavor, Midwest Games, we were checking out some of the titles here. First of all, what inspired you to make the move, and what do you like about Midwest Games and the culture so far?
Well, I was, as you said, I was at Microsoft and Xbox. I was at Microsoft totally for 23 years, Xbox for over 20. And, I love Xbox. Cut me, I'll green bleed. I bleed green. But the reality is, after 20 years, you kind of did it all. I shipped 4 or 5 consoles, Kinect, Xbox Live, countless controllers. I worked with all the game studios, and I love it. But I was like, you know what? Do I want to stay there my entire life, or do I want to go out and continue to make impact? And that's what it's all about. Awesome,
and that's what it is. And one thing that really resonates with me as a person who's a New Yorker, we're East Coast guys, right? And
to the point.
To the point. And what it is like we always want to see the next level of talent and the next level of nurturing on this side of the coast. And one thing about Midwest Games that I did like so far, as far as like we had a diversity of games. We had the Lullaby Life, which was like super chill. And then we had Duck Paradox, which is not, and Rah Rah Boom. So tell me about East Coast culture and then Midwest Games, these games specifically, what drew you in?
Well, first a little bit, let me just tell you, when I left Microsoft last year, I've been working with a bunch of companies as an independent consultant, and I am on the board for and an advisor for Midwest Games because, when Ben Gvala, who's the CEO, who used to work at Netflix and 2K Sports and 2K, he came to me and he told me what the function of Midwest Games was. Like, hey, there's a lot of, the center of the country is underserved, meaning we've got a lot of great gaming talent here, but nobody knows about it, and there's no opportunities. And when he told me that, I was like, oh God, I'm all in. I am all in, because I want to, we've seen Seattle has great talent, San Francisco, LA, the regular, frankly, even Boston doesn't anymore since Ken Levine closed up his shop many years ago. So I was like, let me do whatever you can do, Ben. I want to help find great games, because great games can come from anywhere, which is really the mantra of Midwest Games. So I was like, sign me up. So I was just so excited. But to your point about East Coast versus West Coast culture, it's wildly different.
Very different, very different.
I can say I'm an expert in some areas for both, because I lived in New England for my entire life and for 20 years I live in Seattle. So it's very different. But at the end of the day, we all like great games.
Yes.
Right?
Indeed. It is all about the great games. And again, I love that balance. And what drew you in was that to help these underserved, communities and developers that's out here. So again, it's an absolute pleasure to see you. You're a legend in the game, right? And we got to showcase these titles. Anything else we can do to get the information out and the word out to support Midwest?
Well, I'm just so glad you guys came by. You talked about the titles. We've got Lullaby Life coming to Xbox later in April.
Okay.
We've got the other 2 games you talked about. They're available on Steam, which is weird because, I've spent 20 years talking about Xbox. So when I talk about PlayStation or Steam, people are like, what?
How dare he?
I own a Switch. I own a PlayStation. I have a Steam account. I play games. And you and I have talked before. I love games, and I'm a gamer at heart. I'm not just sitting out here going, okay, I'm just not a salesman.
Exactly. He don't just talk about it. He live it. Again, Larry,
thanks,
an absolute pleasure.
I also want to say something. This is actually the very first video interview I've done since I left Xbox. So you got an exclusive.
Exclusive.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Right. Always a pleasure. Larry Hryb, the legend, exclusive interview, lordsofgaming.net, I Am Lords podcast. An absolute pleasure. Midwest Games, make sure you support East Coast, the Midwest, the underserved communities in development.